And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Howdy folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at Sanctum from CGE Games. Now this has been talked about for a while. I think they were showing this off a year ago. It's finally out. This is a dungeon crawl game. In fact, the cover here, I'm not a big fan of this cover because it's just very generic. It's like, hey, this game's like Diablo. Okay, maybe. This is a dungeon crawl where you are fighting demons, except it's not really a dungeon crawl. It's a leveling up game where you're going to fight one big boss at the end, but it has some very Euro mechanisms. It's kind of hard to explain it without showing you a bit of it. I'm not going to be able to show you everything, but I want to show you some of the basic concepts of this game. Here we go. In Sanctum, each player is going to play one of these characters. Now, in this game, the characters are extremely diverse. At the beginning, you get a bunch of cards and tiles that you're going to place on your board in the proper position. So, this archer, she has infinite quiver, perfect fit, rain of arrows. They have little numbers and colors on them so you know where these cards go. And then you also have tiles that you'll put in these spots. And then on top of these tiles and cards, you're going to put some tokens that are shown there. So you have a kind of a very different setup than everybody else. And this is how you're going to be leveling up your character as the game goes by. See, many times there's actually some cards at the beginning of the game that will let you move these red, green, blue, and white gems. White's kind of wild over the course of the game. But whenever you slay a monster, one of the benefits of that monster is it's going to let you move up gems of that color. This lets me move up 1 green gem. This lets me move up 2 blue. This level 3 lets me move up 3 red. And when you move gems, you kind of move them up to the next level. So let's say I have 3 reds. I can move this and go 1, 2, and then I can move this one up here 3. Now, since this one's completely clear, this tile comes into play, which actually adds 1 over here. I'll get another one of these red tokens. Each character starts with a certain number of stamina tokens, so this character starts with 2 and 3 focus tokens, but by taking everything off this tile, then they get some more of they get 1 more stamina token for this. So I could see if I got both these blues and moved them up here, I would get 2 more focus tokens. Now, however, that means to get this card, I'm going to have to move 5 off of this. And even if there's an empty space, I would have to move these here before I move them to the top. So this does a few things at once. As you get these cards out, if everything comes off a card, this card becomes a special ability that you put over here next to the character board. As you get gems to the top, you're able to use those. See, as you kill different monsters, those monsters will turn into equipment. So here, for example, acrobat shoes, which I could put here. But to put acrobat shoes there, I need to have 2 blue gems to put onto that to enable that, to be able to use that. This, in other words, will help you fight monsters. When you fight monsters, each monster is going to be sitting in front of you. As the game goes by, monsters will be in front of you. And you're going to roll dice, and you're trying to match the numbers that are shown here. If you don't kill the monster will hit you back, and then you will use these tokens, focus tokens, and stamina tokens, to do things about that. So when I attack a monster, I might use a focus token and put it here on this sword that she starts with, or this weapon, I guess it's a bow and arrow, and I can add or subtract 2 from one of the dice that I put out. I can take, if the monster hits me, I can put 2 red tokens here, 2 of the stamina tokens there, to block 2 damage from the monster. Now, as you get more and more weapons and things, you can do more and more. So, for example, if this awesome shield, I get this later on, I put this here, I can only use 1 stamina, and that will block 1. And this also gives me 3 more stamina tokens, which is pretty cool. These throwing knives, they're purple, so I can put a stamina or a focus token in them, and I can put 1 in there to subtract 2 from 1 die, and 1 in there to add 2 from another die. Now, you can't use these abilities more than once. You have to rest. Resting will take all these and put these up at the top, but you can see how you have these special abilities. Like, for example, this Perfect Fit lets her equip level 1 stuff without putting gems on it, which is pretty neat. And there's all kinds of special abilities, and each character has a very different thing. And then the weapons and things you get are going to be different as the game goes by. This is the whole focus of the game, is building up your character. The game itself is pretty simple. You're going to be moving through a series of boards, and as you move through these boards on your turn, essentially you can move to the front of the line as you're moving your character. If you're already at the front line, just move one forward. And what that does is it will add a certain number of monsters from the different piles. So you have level 1, level 2, and level 3. They're different types because they let you move those different gems if you get them. And some of these will bring out groups of enemies and whatever. And whenever you move, you'll bring out some more, then you pick one and you'll stick these enemies in front of you. The other thing that you can do then is fight enemies, as I described below, where you'll be using your special abilities and so on and so forth to roll dice. You're trying to match these. You know, some enemies are going to require, these are level 1, so they only require 1 die to kill. The level 2s require 2 dice to kill, etc. If you do kill them, then they come to your side. Otherwise, they will do damage to you. Each player has a damage track on here, and if you die, you're in trouble. But as you're fighting small enemies, it's pretty hard to die because you can prepare and use things ahead of time. And then the final thing you can do is rest, in which that case you start equipping all this really cool equipment that you've gotten, or you trade equipment in for potions. Potions will, at the beginning of a battle, you can like use a potion to take some of your tokens and take them off the things that you've used and go again. That's pretty much the whole game. You're just going to take turns either moving and drafting monsters, fighting your monsters in front of you, or resting. Eventually, you'll get to the final board here, and you'll come, and then you fight the main big guy. Everyone's going to put a bunch of these cards in front of them, where you will be fighting the monster here, the big dragon or demon thing. You'll be having to roll dice. You'll have several of these cards. The demon will do damage to you. You'll flip these cards, and he'll mess with your abilities and things like that. And if the game will end in 2 different ways. If everyone's defeated by the demon, basically who survived the longest wins. If everyone defeats a demon, then whoever does the most damage to him wins. That's pretty much the whole game, is when you come to fight this main guy. But that is kind of the last 6th, 7th of the game. Most of the game is just going to be moving on these tracks, getting monsters, and fighting them. There's a lot more involved with the game, but that should give you a basic overview of how it works. There are some miniatures included with the game, and they're fine. You know, they're different colors, easy, you know, to figure out what they are. I will say that I thought that the actual artwork of both the heroes and the monsters, I thought it was kind of generic. You know, it's the same, oh, look, skeletons and demons. I guess technically they're all demons, but nah. And this is okay. I do like the names of some of the stuff. You know, this is a Darkwood short bow, so at least that's better than bow, woodsman armor, jade wristband, and there's some really fantastic hats in this game. Look at that. That's a great hat with a great feather. So I like the names. I just thought that the artwork and everything felt a little generic. The game comes also with a board here where, you know, when you accomplish certain goals as the game goes by, you get a certain number of equipment picked. You get some bonus tiles that you'll be able to use against the monster. It comes with a guide here that tells you what to do, and each of the characters has this, which explains all the special abilities that you have. Each player has an ability to kind of go berserk, but here this character can do it multiple times, frenzy. And so that's kind of neat that these are here. They're a little thin and stuff, and also they're hard to fit on the table. But that works. The dice are really good quality. You'll get more dice as the game goes by. You start with a certain amount of dice. You can get more. One of your abilities, you have a die on it, and you'll be able to use that extra die in certain situation. But they're really good quality dice. I like them. And I also like all the different colors of gems and different things, stones that you use. Now, you have all these cards and things that you put on your character at the beginning. I wish there was a better way to sort that out. I'm going to have to put mine in bags and whatever. But at the end of the day, I thought that the component quality was pretty good, other than the generic artwork. I should say, I do like the artwork on the boards, though. This stuff looks really fantastic, and it has a very evocative feel to it. I like Sanctum a lot. There's a few negatives I have with it. I've already mentioned one, the very generic theme. The other, and this is the biggest negative to me for the game, is that the final boss fight is not as interesting as the rest of the game. It's not bad. It's just okay, the final boss fight. We get to the final boss. There's a ton of dice out there. You roll dice. You probably aren't going to, the bosses ain't going to hit you. You got to like defend against that. And as you fight the boss, it gets easier and easier, but you're also kind of running out of health. And you just got to try to survive or not. And after the rest of the game, it felt almost slightly anticlimactic. And I probably wouldn't really want to play the game if it was only the boss fight. But that being said, the rest of the game, the leveling up, is so fun. So if you're somebody who likes playing, well, Diablo or other games of this ilk where you just keep moving through the game and get more loot and get stuff, that's how this game feels. It's like, okay, here's some monsters, fight them. Ooh, I got these new weapons. Now I equip these weapons. Ooh, I have a new skill. Now I use this new skill and this new weapons to kill these, and I get more stuff. And you know, if you like that, it's so much fun because that is a good chunk of this game. That is my favorite part of the game. And since it's about 90% of the game, I'm okay with that. Also, the leveling up thing is phenomenally innovative. You move up those gems. So you're like, well, I'll move the ones in the top first. That gives me more gems to equip things with, and it gives me those skills at the top. Or, these skills at the bottom are pretty good, or even in the middle, I'll move the gems off of them and take those skills right away. But when I do that, then it takes longer to get the skill above it. It's so fascinating. You're not going to get all your skills out, probably. Maybe half of them, maybe. It depends on how you do it, and you have to decide what you're going to go for, which monsters will you draft to fight. And then there's kind of that economy of drafting monsters, fighting them, resting, which seems like it's at the beginning of the game, that's what you have to do. I'll take some monsters. I'll fight the monsters. I kill the monsters. Now I rest, equip the weapons, go. Draft some monsters, fight the monsters, rest. Now I'm going to draft some monsters, draft some more monsters, now fight, then rest. Oh, I lost. Okay, now I'll fight again. So there's, it kind of changes as the game goes by, but it keeps things moving. And I don't think any turn is particularly long. And the actual combat itself is you're just trying to use some target numbers. I need to roll a 3, 4, and a 6. Great. I roll those dice. Oh, man, but here I can use this, and that's when you start moving discs around and manipulating things. And so you get some weapons that allow you to manipulate them. There's one weapon that lets you add or subtract any number you want to the die, which means you're going to get a hit automatically. But you need a lot of hits, so that works for one thing, and using the focus and healing. It's such a good game in that regard. And that's the part I really love about this game. Like I said, the boss fight at the end brings it down a little, keeping me from, just loving this. I almost could live without a boss fight and just go through and see who kills the most enemies over the course of the game. And I should mention, I love how different the 4 different characters are. They're so different. They're kind of archetypes that you've seen. You got the big bruiser and the archer and the person who can manipulate magic and blah, blah, blah. But between the 4 of them, they feel extremely different. And so when you play it, you can pick a new character each time and say, oh, how am I going to work with this one? Or pick the same character and say, what am I going to do differently? So, yeah, a few small negatives, but overall, I found this to be refreshing. It's kind of weird. It has a generic theme, but the game itself feels very innovative and different, and that's what I like about Sanctum. I'm Tom Vasel. See y'all next time. Dice Tower Judgment approved!
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower.